Salut la toți, dar ce fel de eveniment fără probleme tehnice? Deci vă salut pe toată lumea, ne bucurăm foarte mult că am început cu dreptul și am trecut de toate barierele tehnice legate de acest eveniment. Eu nu o să vă rețin mult, doar o să vă spun că suntem în cea mai mare eveniment pentru startup-uri dedicate și inclusiv cu toți actorii implicați în dezvoltarea ecosistemului de startup-uri, cu cei mai interesanți speakeri, cele mai valoroase startup-uri și vă încurajez să verificați pe pagina web startupmoldova.digital toată agenda, tot programul și să vă invit la această sesiune care va fi moderată de către Ana Chirița, avocatul sau promotorul industriei IT din Moldova și sesiunea va fi în limba engleză. O zi frumoasă tuturor și ne vedem la următoarele sesiuni!
Good morning, Moldova. Good afternoon, Moldova. Good afternoon, all the startups and startup community that comes from Moldova, not only. As Mary has mentioned, this session will be held in English, and we are looking ahead on learning about very, very interesting facts related to where the startup ecosystem of Moldova is currently positioned. What should we do to actually develop the startup ecosystem related to having more startups, having more unicorns, or at least one, having more community-driven events, bringing the community together. Startup Moldova is the platform developed by TechWall with the support of USAID and Sweden, and has the goal on supporting every small or big becoming entrepreneur to find its way on the entrepreneurship path. Since this is an international event that we're holding today, I'd like to start with one wonderful presentation coming from Mark Pencil, who is the founder and president of Startup Genome. This is one of the world's leading advisory companies in relation to startup ecosystems. For example, in 2019, they have supported over 40 governments, define the way and the roadmap they are going to, or they should embrace in order to develop their startup ecosystems. We'll continue with Simon Smith, who is the Director for International Business Development within PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. They have been an active support and helper of Atik and TechWall in defining the startup ecosystem, in mapping what initiatives are currently happening. And Simon will be asked to respond to the questions, how can a small country like Moldova succeed in developing its startup ecosystem? We'll then continue with interventions from our Minister for Economy and Infrastructure, Mr. Anatol Usatey. We'll continue with USAID with Mr. Scott Hocklander, Adam Amberg from the government of Sweden, and we will end up this session with a presentation on the Moldovan Tech Path, a bit of a history behind and where we want to head to. Stay tuned with us, and please be active, ask questions, tell us what you expect. As Mary mentioned, for more details about the Startup Week, please get on startupmoldova.digital and see the whole week's agenda. But now, as promised, we start with Mark Pencil, founder and president of the Startup Genome. Mark, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you to the entire organizing team for having me at this fantastic event. Very excited to be here. My name is Mark Pencil. I'm one of the founders and president at Startup Genome, and I'm here to share a very brief global perspective on startup ecosystems and startup ecosystem development. What we're currently seeing is that the startup economy is worth 2.8 trillion USD, which is on par with the GDP of a G7 economy. However, the big problem we're seeing as well is that 68% of that value is currently concentrated in the top 10 startup ecosystem around the world. We heard a lot of the stories about San Francisco. We heard a lot about the stories of New York, London, and Beijing. And really what we're trying to achieve together is to break that concentration and help more and more ecosystems be part of the new economy. Our mission at Startup Genome is to spread the genome of thriving startup ecosystems everywhere, as well in Moldova.
Adam, you have a presentation to share? Please add here because we don't see any presentation.
My presentation, is it visible now?
No, right now, yes, just now.
Perfect, I'm sorry about that. Let me go back 1 or 2 slides because it's really important to see this chart, this graph. 68% of that value is concentrated right now in San Francisco, in New York, London. And we're asking ourselves, what about all the other places, right? Let's level the playing field and let's make sure that everyone, every region around the world is part of the new economy. This is why we at Startup Genome came together. We're a team of serial entrepreneurs, researchers, and leaders of successful innovation agencies. And in 2011, we started a movement, and we were working with more than 90,000 startup leaders to hear firsthand how they are experiencing the development of startups and scale-ups, together with 300 partners, including the Global Entrepreneurship Network, Techstars, and many others. And up until today, we studied 250 ecosystems, and we worked with more than 100 organizations across all continents to advise them on effective policies and programs. Because it's really not about the secrets of Silicon Valley. It's really about what we as a global community can learn from one another to create the environment for more young people to create successful tech companies. A few of the people and the organizations we've been working with here, some of them might be familiar. Daria Isaksson, the Director General of Vinnova in Sweden. Felipe Matos, the board member of Dynamo, based in Brazil. Or Edwin Chow, the Assistant CEO of Enterprise Singapore. All of them are ecosystem leaders coming together to share valuable knowledge and experience as part of our network. The way we work with each of them is, first of all, we understand their startup ecosystem. Where do they locate? Where do they sit in global comparison? We look at our norm strategies, and then we assess them and benchmark them against local and global peers in order for us, towards the end of an engagement, to formulate recommendations and a development roadmap for them to accelerate the growth of their tech economy faster. Today, I also want to give a very brief idea of the state of the startup economy in 2020. Once a year, we publish the Global Startup Ecosystem Report, which is considered the most comprehensive and widely read publication in its field. We studied, again, 250 startup ecosystems, and we also ranked the global top 30 as well as the top 100 emerging ecosystems that follow right after. And I encourage all of you to download the report at startupgenome.com. First of all, there is this interesting trend that we observed during the last couple of years that we call the rise of deep tech, a new era of entrepreneurship. Tech founders are more and more sophisticated, and they are more and more disrupting entire industries around us. While in 2010, 2011, only 22.8% of all the startups in the world were considered to be deep tech. Around 45% are deep tech startups now. And some of these subsectors that we're seeing that grow very, very strongly in terms of exits that are produced and in terms of the funding that is funneled into these companies. We see a strong development in advanced manufacturing and robotics. We see a strong development in blockchain, agriculture tech, and AI and big data as the fastest growing ecosystems. Of course, fintech and other subsectors are hugely relevant still, but it's important to see that at least when we look at exit growth and early stage funding opportunities, these subsectors are coming to be in a mature state and receiving less investment and less growth rate. When we rank the top ecosystems around the world, the top ones are typically rather stable. In the top 30, we've seen Seoul and Tokyo, 2 new entrants in the global top 20. We've seen the rise of Amsterdam that I'll mention in a second again. And we're also seeing that London now tied with New York City, sharing the second spot right after Silicon Valley. But apart from that, really coming back to my point of concentration, the top 30 are relatively stable. What's more interesting in our opinion is what we're seeing beyond the top 30. And when we look at 2013, you will see that only 4 ecosystems in the world have actually produced at least 1 unicorn. And then see the progress over time. In 2019, we're at 84 ecosystems around the world that have produced at least 1 unicorn, which is very, very encouraging to us. And it should be encouraging to you in Moldova. Where does Europe fit in here? When we look at the top 100 emerging ecosystems, it's again encouraging to see that Europe leads in terms of the numbers of ecosystems represented in the top 100, with 38 ecosystems represented. 8 of these 38 ecosystems are located in Eastern Europe, which confirms the region's strong potential. And then Europe is followed by North America with 32 startup ecosystems and the Asia Pacific region with 22 ecosystems respectively. When we look at Europe and European startup ecosystems, we can see that ecosystem success can be engineered. And this is one message that I wanted to bring to you today. When we look at Amsterdam and the ecosystem that was basically led since 2014 by the public-private partnership of Startup Amsterdam, this organization and the ecosystem they created significantly created momentum and significantly helped more and more tech founders build globally impactful companies. So that back in 2015, we were locating Amsterdam on the 19th rank, and now see the progress over time. They are ranking 12th in 2020, and there are no signs of slowdown whatsoever. Therefore, one of the key messages today is there is no reason not to believe that Moldova can become a globally differentiated and recognized hotspot for startups. Also wanted to share 3 major learnings, major observations that we've seen after studying and working with so many ecosystems over the last couple of years. The first one is addressing the policymakers. It's important to us that you focus on the right action at the right time. For the ecosystem leaders, I'll get to that later, as well as the startup founders. Let's look at the ecosystem lifecycle model that is very dear to us when we work with policymakers. There are a million of opportunities and a million of policies and programs you could focus your time and money on at this point. But really, if you want to maximize the return on investment, ecosystem development is all about focusing. And in the activation phase, the very first phase of ecosystems and their development, we see the top 3 priorities really being to create an environment that allows for more startups, more entrepreneurs, really more entrepreneurial resources that try and that accumulate experience. We then also see a very strong need for more early stage funding opportunities in order for these founders and these companies to really get the fuel they need in order to try to pivot and to eventually succeed. And then, of course, look at the startups that are already there. Look at the amazing founders that Moldova already has, and really give them all the support they need in order to better the quality and to even become better companies over the course of time. What we also see is that ecosystems that focus on specific areas of innovation tend to perform better. And this chart is an exercise that we're doing with each of our clients, where we try to understand their knowledge landscape, their corporate fabric, but also the startups that are currently in the ecosystem. And we're basically trying to give them a sense of what is the global potential of each of these subsectors and how does a local ecosystem fit into the picture. And then considering an opportunity or a scenario where there is high global potential for a subsector of innovation. And there is also something that you can build on at the local level, then you're in the upper right quadrant and you have something very promising that you would want to focus on. And then it's really about creating unfair advantage, creating programs, direct more funding into these specific subsectors of innovation, and really work together as a community and help create ambidextrous clusters where universities are working together with startups, where startups are working together with corporations, and really work together to create these clusters of strength around specific subsectors. For the ecosystem leadership, we see those ecosystems perform best that are led by an entrepreneurial core. And this is the example again of Startup Amsterdam, but also Sting in Stockholm, Maria01 in Helsinki, and many, many other stories. Really, it's about empowering a core group of people to develop the startup ecosystem. And these are typically entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial-minded people that are empowered to lead and execute. And they build leadership in the community through data, helping everyone understand what our key gaps are, but also jumpstarting initiatives that might be missing at this point in time, or supporting existing ones that are already doing fantastic and supporting the ecosystem in great, great ways. It's really about thinking who could be your keystone team, who could be your keystone organization, and supercharge them in the best way possible. For the founders, it's been really interesting to study more than 90,000 founders during the last couple of years and identify what are actually the differences between successful companies, successful startups, and those that eventually go to create scale-ups and unicorns. And of course, there are many, many different initiatives and many different metrics in order for us to analyze that. But when we look at scale-up creation, which is what every government and every founder is concerned about, there are really three core areas that we found make a huge difference. And the first area is be ambitious, be bold, address a large market, not only in Moldova, not only in Europe, but address the world. Build a differentiated product that's never been built before. And then global connectedness. We find that those startups and those founders that are connected to the world typically perform better. Speak to people, speak to entrepreneurs in San Francisco, speak to entrepreneurs in Stockholm, in London, ask them for their feedback. Don't be shy. It's just one LinkedIn message away. Address global accelerators, speak with global venture capitals, learn from them. And then global market reach, bringing these first two elements together, try to go broad and go global. Attract foreign customers, build a global product strategy, and in that sense, really try to take a big one and go abroad and scale your startup successfully. One important step in the right direction for the Moldova ecosystem that I'm very happy to announce today is that we're now having a first collaboration between TechWill, Startup Moldova, and our team. And really it's about creating opportunities for your ecosystem to share knowledge and develop partnerships between Moldova and our global community of ecosystem leaders, and also increase the international exposure for your ecosystem, recognizing all the amazing things that have already been done, be it infrastructure, be it the tax rates, the legislation, but also some of the really successful first companies and programs that you've built over the last couple of years. Startup Genome is now very excited to work with you on that front and have you, the leaders of the ecosystem, join the global conversation with our members, with the CTOs, for example, of the world's most valuable tech companies, and share your perspective and share your challenges. And then also, for the first time, Moldova will be part of the Global Startup Ecosystem Report 2021 around specific subsectors that we're now identifying together with the local leaders. And it will be featured in some of the subsector reports specifically that we will be launching in the next couple of weeks. And on that front, let me close off by saying successful startup ecosystems are not created overnight. It's really a long journey with failure, with success stories. We can all do the best that we can if we just keep going and work hard. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope some of you will reach out to me if you have any questions, any concerns, anything you would like to discuss. I'm very, very happy to keep in touch with all of you. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Mark, for this wonderful presentation, for bringing the general and the big perspective into where and how and what are the ingredients that need to take place in order for an ecosystem to develop. We're extremely proud of the fact that we'll be partnering and that Moldova will be featuring and part of the 2021 report. So basically, we are putting together the Moldovan startup ecosystem on the global map. It's interesting what you mentioned about the fact that it's all about ecosystems are about focusing and also brought together or bringing together the big minds, the good entrepreneurs, the best cases. I would really love that we have time afterwards so that our followers and the participants can interact with you and your team to benefit and to get more exposure, as you have mentioned, within the global network. I would like to go to the next speaker, who is coming from PwC. It's Simon Smith, Director of International and Business Development. Simon, for you, several questions. So we have heard about the global perspective, the global picture. Since you have been working and your teams have been working in different areas and different parts of the world, please let us know how can small countries be, or can small countries be leaders in startup ecosystem? Should all startups be digital? What should startups do to maximize their chances to succeed, and how to boost the startup ecosystem overall? What are the ingredients that countries or other countries have taken forward, and what would be the recommendations for such a country as Moldova? Simon?
Hello, Anna.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Simon.
Good. Thank you.
The questions that we have asked towards you and helping us out figure what are the ingredients for a startup ecosystem of a small country, or what should happen that a small country should succeed.
Thank you very much, Anna, for asking these questions, because they are right to the point. And thank you also, Mark, for pointing out the global picture, because what I'm going to tell you now is very much fitting in what already Mark pointed out. And I will go in more detail. So I hope the next speaker after me is giving more colorful images on that perspective. I would like to share a presentation, which I put already in the show. So I don't know. You can see it, so that's good. So the whole thing about startups, of course, is how we can get scaling, because starting up, that's not the difficulty, but the point is how to make a successful company out of it through scaling. So here are the challenges. Can a small country be a leader in a startup ecosystem? We have seen that there are a few points in the world map where they are accelerating, and Mark has already pointed out that others are following, but is it really possible? And the second question is, should all these startups be digital, or can they be of any other kind of activity? Another point is, what should do startups to maximize their chance for success? And Mark was already pointing out some of them. And last but not least, how can Moldova boost its startup ecosystem to make Startup Moldova one of the success stories in Europe? First of all, can small countries be leaders in startup ecosystems? And here comes the statistics. Estonia in Europe is the leader. Cyprus and Malta, surprise maybe for you, but they are small economies, but leaders in the startup ecosystem. And Mark pointed already out, the Netherlands is following very well. In absolute numbers, Netherlands is clearly on the lead. But here we made the differentiator between the amount and the number of startups per 1 billion nominal GDP, because the more rich a country is, the easier it is to find capital to create new startups. And the Netherlands is not even doing the best, but it's in fact Estonia who is the leader, from which, in fact, Moldova can learn a lot. And it has more cultural and historical connections than the Netherlands, for instance. I also put Romania into the picture because it's your neighbor and you want to know how they're doing. Now, in the beginning of this year, when the COVID crisis just started, then I was still able to present in Romania, but the number of Romanian startups is not that high into comparison to its GDP, which more or less is the average in the EU and the average in the US. Here's an example of a kind of activity which could also happen in Moldova. It's Mectory, which is not an incubator, it's not an accelerator, it's not a science park, but it's an organization specifically set up to help students which are still at university but can even be at high school to learn to set up their own project or their own startup. Next question is, should all startups be digital? Now, if you take the same statistics as I showed you before, what do you see? That almost 90% of all the startups are digital. So if you think that any other companies in other sectors should be promoted to be startups in the ecosystem, it's not forbidden, but the rule is basically they should be digital. And there are good reasons for this. Because what should startups do to maximize their chance of success? Now, first of all, they should use unique knowledge. You should be a market leader in your local market, but even better in regional markets. It's easier when you are a technology leader, because then you can protect your IPR, but it's not given a lot of them to be a technology leader. Be careful if you follow the market. There's nothing wrong with it, but sooner or later, you will be taken over by somebody who's growing faster than you are. So it's better to be a market leader than be a market follower. Anyhow, for each of these situations, it's crucial to continue innovating. Why is Google such a strong company? Because it keeps on innovating while you're going, so it's very difficult to take it over or to do better than they are, because tomorrow they have done already something which you were imagining and you didn't know they were doing it. What they learned is from the lean startup from Eric Ries. So if you want to understand how that process works, I will not spend any words on it anymore. Order the book for Amazon or anybody else and read it. The other aspect which most people do not talk about is how do you split the company, how you split the shares in the beginning. So don't divide them immediately to people who come along and offer you some money for it, because they can be loan sharks. So the crucial point is you should put your shares into the hands of people who are really providing effort to make the company grow. How this process works, which is quite particular, and it's not like normal SMEs growing, small and medium-sized enterprise go. Read Slicing Pie from Mike Moyer, and you will know how it works. He has written several books about it. The other thing, which is not for most companies, is cooperation. Cooperation is very important, especially now that in the COVID crisis, supply chains are disrupted and new supply chains are growing and they're integrating faster than ever before. They will help you to scale and be ready to scale. They also help you to outsource all your non-core activities, because you shouldn't do them because other people can be better at it. For this, you can read Business Model Generation of Alexander Osterwalder, who got quite famous with his business model generation. And for the last part, Mark was already pointing it out. Act local, but go immediately global. Each digital startup is in principle a global startup, and you can immediately reach to international markets, which again help you to scale. For this, you don't have to read a book, but you simply follow the ongoing business disruption, and you follow the reports which are coming out from Startup Genome or PwC, any other organizations. Crucial is that you are one of the global growth markets, because you don't want to fight yourself into a market which is already divided. You want to grow in a market where there's enough space for growth. Mark already pointed out a number of markets on which he's reporting, but I summarize 5 of them which are particularly fast growing. This is the area of Earth observation, and in particular the part of precision farming, which is also relevant for Moldova. In the blue economy, in the maritime environment, the economy is growing not only in fisheries and in plankton, but also in wind parks and what you have. And of course, the upcoming 5G technology gives all kinds of new possibilities. And in combination with data analytics, artificial intelligence gives wonderful opportunities to dig into data and to help companies to grow. Last but not least, how to boost the startup ecosystem of Moldova. To keep it simple, let's look at the way companies grow. They grow from idea, they have to validate, they have to build a prototype, they launch their products or service in the wider market, they grow, and they grow to maturity. For maturity, growth, and the launch, you definitely will find people who are willing and organizations who want to finance. But for the moment in Moldova, what's missing is a seed fund or a proof of concept fund, which is crucial to get through the prototype phase. And you need to ensure that the business angel supporting this process, because the seed fund is not enough in itself, but needs to be further supported by business angels. Crucial is that you will educate your business angels, that you will learn them, don't invest any longer in non-scalable, low-margin business, but make them understand that they should go to scalable, high-margin business. Without trying to explain how you set up a seed fund, I want to demonstrate it with a picture of the Prototron in Estonia, where since its launch in 2014, there have been 1,300 applications, and there's a very strict selection program where there were 35 startups awarded, and they were taken into a program to make them grow fast. They created already 3 million euros of revenues, and most importantly, they got already 10 million of venture capital from as well as business angels as venture capital funds. Now, this discussion, which I'm telling now, is a part of a broader initiative within PwC, and together with Alexandru Gozun of our office in Moldova, we published a paper on financing an innovation ecosystem. And again, this is part of a broader initiative for PwC to help you to discuss on the future of innovation in the Central and Eastern European countries, for which we started the hashtags 10 in 2430. Thank you very much. Back to you, Anna.
Hey, Simon, thank you for this wonderful overview and for bringing some nice examples from Europe and how things are working, how things are happening, so that we can get inspired. Today, as mentioned at the beginning of the session, we have some special guests with some welcoming words that I would like to invite. First of all, I would like to invite the Minister of Economy and Infrastructure, Anatoliu Usati, who will have some words in support as the opening of the week, as well as telling us what are the initiatives that the government is doing to support startup ecosystem development. Anatoly, hello.
Thank you very much, Anna. Excellencies, dear partners, dear startups, friends. As you undoubtedly know, the government of Moldova has been consistent in promoting the ICT sector for the last few years, targeting the sector with a set of dedicated policies and supportive legislation. Just few of those impactful measures are, as you know, Moldova Digital 2020 strategy, two consecutive dedicated policy documents on enhancing IT industry competitiveness and promoting digital innovation. Here we're talking about law on IT parks, IT visa, etc. In last years, we have witnessed the moment when Moldova has restarted as a technological destination and IT became equal in value with the telco sector, which is a great indicator of a harmony between the content development and telecommunication infrastructure usage within the modern economy. More than that, IT sector share in GDP tripled in the last 4 years and topped traditional industries in export for the last 2 years as wine industry and most of agro and industrial products. We have reached already $380 million United States dollars in 2019 as a value of IT sector, but the target is 1 billion. 600 companies residents of the Moldova IT Park produced half of it. More than 80% of their products are export-oriented, which confirms that Moldova has found its niche in the global IT market. Behind those figures are thousands of well-paid jobs for young and talented people here in the Republic of Moldova. As you know, salary in IT industry surpasses salaries in all other sectors of the economy. Today, average salary in Moldova IT Park reached 30,000 Moldovan leis. The key instrument to achieve our goals are the qualitative growth of the IT product segment, investment in digital and entrepreneurial education, digital technologies penetration in different verticals of national economy. A special place in this policy we reserve for the tech startups due to their role as a driver for promoting digital innovation horizontally. The national economy capacity to absorb digital innovation is in good shape, but the investment ability is limited. We all know it. So local tech entrepreneurs are encouraged to develop and promote adaptive and competitive digital solutions. Ministry of Economy and Infrastructure is ready continuously to play a proactive role in this direction via Moldova IT Park and ODIM instruments by developing the tech startups and digital innovation fund, as well as consolidating the dedicated programs for entrepreneurial digital education. More than that, we will fully support the private initiative in these regards, and a recipe for further good results lays with a good partnership and fruitful collaboration, all together with development partners and private sector. Creating premises where we would support the new emerging ideas, new emerging startup with a global perspective, as was rightly pointed out in the previous presentation. Creating new jobs on the market and new opportunities are the necessary ingredients at this stage. We have witnessed how IT industry evolved well with a radical governmental intervention and adapted policies supported by the development partners and business communities. Another example is the digital education field, where we have stood strong and together with ITIC succeeded to introduce a mandatory digital education from the first grade into the schools of Moldova. And my kids now are started their digital education right from the first year at the school. I'm very great with this. So it's the next stage where the created premises for seeds and venture funding supporting digital innovation. We all understand they have limited capacities without governmental and donors' contribution at the moment. The pandemic crisis has shown that we are acted right. However, much more is needed. We are here to help and support. We are looking forward to further collaborating in creating the best policies in the region to support IT innovation. And here at the end, I would like to make a reference to presentation made by Mark Pencil earlier today, especially the part referred to the policymakers. The statement, right action at the right time. We believe this shall become a reality in Moldova and motto for the Ministry of Economy. We'll do our best to remain open to our stakeholders in order to identify together, once again, together, the right actions and to define the time needed to implement them. So, as a closing remark, have a wonderful and productive week ahead. Looking forward for new big projects. Startup Moldova. Thank you very much, Anna, once again. The floor is back to you.
Your Excellency, thank you for this wonderful input and for the dedication. I must say, we like your maps behind you with Europe and Moldova. We want to see as many startups flourishing within the European and the global perspective. And definitely, it's really important to have the right policies at the right place. But as the startups usually mention, they just want to break free and have the creativity at their own. So we do look forward into the collaboration on the Startup Moldova, on the other initiatives. And thank you for this wonderful input that you have had today. Following our next speaker, as we have seen, most of the innovations kind of had their roots or still have their roots in the most famous valley, which is the Silicon Valley, coming from the USA. USAID has been supporting multiple initiatives to develop the ICT sector back from 2005 with the Seed 1, Seed 2, MCP, TechPool projects, which do look at enhancing the competitiveness of the ICT sector in Moldova. I'd like to give the floor and with welcoming words to the Moldova USAID Mission Director, Mr. Scott Hocklander. Scott, do we have you here?
Yeah, thanks so much, Anna. It's great to be here. It's great to have that little intro. I appreciate it. Minister Asati, distinguished guests, welcome. Good afternoon. First, I just want to congratulate the organizer and all the speakers for their efforts in supporting and enhancing the tech ecosystem in Moldova and in the region. I took a look at the lineup, as always with these events. You got incredible speakers, incredible sessions lined up throughout the week. So just to start with, so why is USAID supporting IT in Moldova? IT sector we consider it a source of incredible growth, and you heard from Mark already. What the size of the potential of that growth. I don't think back in 2005 we would have guessed that the potential would be so much. We believe that Moldova has the talent to drive the sector, no doubt about that. We believed that IT was an area where Moldova could compete, not only regionally, but also in international markets, which led us to develop and devise and help start the TechWell project, and then to its one of the follow-ons, which is the National Startup Moldova Week, which we have now. USAID has been supporting the development of the Moldova's IT sector, as you mentioned, Ada, since 2005, with the idea of increasing competitiveness and creating well-paying jobs. As a result, Moldova's IT exports have risen 48-fold, up to 198 million, turning the ICT sector into one of the most dynamic with incredible growth. The positive evolution in the IT sector is reflected by the increase of companies, increases from 1,700 to 2,300, and of the employed staff from over 21,000 to now close to 30,000, and ensuring in many cases the best level of salaries in the economy. Although we started with a focus on the tech sector, we now know the incredible catalytical role that the tech sector plays for the non-tech sectors as well through digitization. Agriculture, health are just a couple. I know during Vertical Day you have coming up, you'll delve into that in more specifics. Also, IT has the ability to drive the establishment of broader initiatives like e-commerce, with impact potential across the entire Moldovan economy. With COVID-19, the pandemic's impacts have hurt production and marketing capacity, in particular of small and medium enterprises. And we know approximately 88% of these small and medium enterprises in Moldova have been affected by declining demand for products and services. And what we've learned is that digital innovations could help become one of the main solutions for these SMEs and enable them to help them continue to work through this very difficult time. As a testament to that, as we understand, practically 90% of the Startup Moldova program participants signaled the need for integrated program of useful courses in the digital field, mentioning that they want to learn more about how to become competitive, and the fact that they lacked, in some cases, the ability to build their own sustainable online businesses. Knowledge growth really begins with education. And I think it's something that Minister Asati spoke about. With our targeted programs to support the education as a driver to close the human capital gap, as well as increasing support to the startup ecosystem, USAID has contributed and continue to provide world-class educational opportunities to more than 65,000 beneficiaries via TechWell, educational and entrepreneurship support programs. We've assisted over 1,000 teams in improving their businesses, reaching new markets, and attracting over 13.5 million in investment. Fundamentally, this is also about partnership and relationship building. I think this week is a perfect example of that, and the startup ecosystem developing that makes the point. USAID, through our partners and programs, has helped change the landscape of the IT ecosystem in Moldova by bringing together academia, private sector, development partners, and government to share one vision and one goal, that the IT sector will become the driver of the Moldovan economy. Practically, what also this means to us, and especially to our Moldovan beneficiaries who we work for, is that growing the industry means better paid jobs. It means more tax revenue. It means a more prosperous country. It means better educated future generations and better opportunities to be integrated into a global market. I think it's also important, it's a great opportunity to retain youth and to convince other talented Moldovans to return. I'm pleased to say and to reiterate USAID's commitment to the IT sector by saying that we will continue with a new round of investments with an amount of 4.9 million together with our partners from the government of Sweden, and with a focus on integrating IT into rural areas by providing technical services and opportunities outside Chisinau. Just to conclude, I would just like to say that I think it's fair to say that it's critical that we continue to encourage and support the ICT sector development through incredible events like Startup Week. Just from my own experience, it's been amazing to see how the IT community has continued to grow and develop in Moldova, and it's how dynamic through events like this that the industry shows the true promise. So thanks so much, Anna, and all the guests. I wish you a tremendous and successful week, and thanks again for having me on. It's great to be a part of this event.
Scott, thank you for inspiring us to inspire other people every time with such wonderful speeches and numbers and figures, and your wonderful dedication and your team's dedication to making Moldova a nicer and better place using technologies as well. This is we're extremely proud to work with your team and to be part of the priorities in order to make IT happen, as we usually say. Thank you. To go next, it has been mentioned several times as part of the vibrant and progressive ecosystems. We have here with us Adam Amberg, who is the head of cooperation of the government of Sweden and is our second main partner for TechWell and for EU for Moldova Startup, City Cahul, basically bringing this wonderful knowledge of cashless economies, going digital strategies, so on and so forth. Adam, if you are here, please come with a welcome.
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon, dear friends, colleagues, and all participants. A little bit like Anna said, wow, following Mark's presentation. I feel the same. Indeed, what an exciting week is ahead of us. Interesting presentations and inspiring discussions, which have already started and for sure will continue. We are witnessing the constant growth and development of Moldova as an attractive emerging market in the region. At the CEE Business Services Summit and Awards 2020 earlier this year, Chisinau won the Emerging City of the Year in Southeast Europe award. With your very proactive, committed and innovative work, you are placing Chisinau and Moldova on the global IT map. Congratulations and well done. From Sweden's side, we are proud to be partnering with USAID in supporting the TechWheel project, an initiative which has significantly contributed to building Chisinau's reputation in the IT sector. Myself, I remember the times when TechWheel was undergoing the transformation from a shell building to what it has become now. I remember the walls being painted and all the creative energies coming together, and that was truly fascinating. And TechWheel has become what it was meant to be, a place where private IT sector connects with young people and students interested in programming, and a powerful engine successfully bridging the STEM gender gap. The number of women and girls participating in tech-related activities has doubled since 2017. And that makes us, as Sweden, very proud and happy to have been able to contribute to this. Sweden is also in partnership with the European Union to strengthen innovation, entrepreneurship and ICT outside the capital, in Kabul. It is so important to keep developing the IT sector in all geographical areas of Moldova. I hope each and every one of you will find this coming week inspiring and motivating. Best luck and thank you to all of you.
Dear Adam, thank you. Thank you for making this happen with all the technical realities that we are in now. So wishing this wonderful week starting and moving ahead. So basically, we were supposed to also have a presentation on the Moldovan Tech Path. However, based on the recommendation of the organizing team, the suggestion is that we conclude what we did during this session, basically looking into Mark's presentation with focusing on the global markets, with getting visible on the global market, with trying to put the accent on the entrepreneurial mindset, on the entrepreneurs, and support the ones who are succeeding to further engage and empower the ones who are succeeding further on. We listened to Simon's recipe on how it starts with an idea validation, with examples of Estonia and other small countries who are making things happen, and the fact that all startups wishing to succeed have to go digital, basically just because the world is moving ahead and there is not too much time to waste on following the world, rather leading the world. It was interesting to learn from the Minister of State about the fact that the ICT sector, although has the wonderful Moldova IT Park law, the Moldova Startup Visa, which allows people from all over the world work in the environment, in the Moldovan environment, and benefit of the extremely nice fiscal regime, wants to reach 1 billion. We're currently at 389 million of value in 2019. So 1 billion is not that far, taking into consideration that 10 years ago we were only 20 or 30 million as a turnover. Definitely this has not been possible without the support of the USAID, who has been active in the field since 2005 and has supported the economic development of the country through empowering the most promising sectors, and ICT seems to be one of those. We talk here about the digital education. We talk about relevant education for the market. We talk about entrepreneurial support and those 1,000 teams who have been helped during the past 5 years to reach and get more and better investment opportunities, or more and better human capital suitable for competing to those global challenges that are there. And of course, Sweden who has been partnering with USAID and with ATIC for so many years in promoting the gender equality. That's why we have so many programs for women in STEM, for girls pursuing STEM subjects. We have so many initiatives that go beyond how to engage ICT in different non-ICT sectors. And that's how probably Moldova IT Park Initiative and Chisinau have received the award for the Emerging City of 2020, which is wow. It's just a beginning, it's just a start. And we will continue with the Moldovan Tech Path and a roundtable with how and what are the ingredients from the academic perspective, from the government perspective, from the private sector perspective in the next session, starting at 3 on a different link that is provided for the participants. We'll start off our next session with the presentation on the past and the future and the wishes. And we'll have Natalia Donzo from the administrator of Moldova IT Park. We'll have on board Vitalie Tarlev, the state secretary on ICT, Vyacheslav Kunev, the president of ATIC, Viorel Bostan, the rector of the Technical University, and Alexandru Buzun, the local representative of PwC, who has been supporting Startup Moldova get shape. We will close this session with big thanks to all the partners and the support, and we want to strive the startup ecosystem of Moldova to be part of the global market. There are some questions, we'll address them in the next session as well. So thank you everybody, have a wonderful week ahead. Join us, select, if you haven't managed to select your session, please do that. Let's celebrate together this wonderful Moldova Startup Week. Thank you. And on this note, we close the session.